Nitesh Tiwari. Then we have, of course, you know him, you love him, Ranbir Kapoor.
Jai Shri Ram.
And last but certainly not least, we have the producer of the film, Namit Malhotra. Welcome, Namit. Now, Namit, I'm going to start with you. This is quite the undertaking. I think I feel safe in saying that. I kind of want to know when you first started thinking about this, about trying to make this incredible story into a film.
It's great talking to you, Reese, and everybody here. Thanks for coming. Firstly, it's an incredibly joyous moment for us to be doing this reveal in front of all of you. We did a little event like this in LA yesterday. We're doing this today with you guys. And we fly back to Mumbai right after. So we have a pretty whirlwind global trip, but glad that we can make this possible. Specifically to your question, it's fair to say that the idea of doing this started almost 10 years ago. And when I was spending my time in LA, building this company, DNEG and Prime Focus, to build this bridge between the East and the West, which, in 100 years of Indian cinema, I always felt like we hadn't built this capability between the two film industries for, decades on. And as part of building that, it always felt like we need to do a better job in bringing some of our best of Indian stories and culture to the West. And that's where the seed of Ramayana really germinated for me, is what's that one story that resonates in all our hearts for over thousands of years, and that we can present to the world with pride. Because so far, Indian films are always representative of India in a relatively weaker light. We were always the victims, and I didn't like that. I love the idea of showing something that is so powerful and so genuine, and really represents our thoughtfulness, our mindset and culture. And that's sort of why this project came to life.
Gotcha, that's a beautiful answer. I'm curious, you said it's been about 10 years in the making. At what point during those 10 years did you realize that there was no turning back, that this was actually going to happen?
I think, like a lot of films, as they say, they die in development hell when you sort of write a script and you're like, okay, is this ever going to get made? I think the moment we had the germ out there, the first point of call was to call Nitesh as the director and to see what he would and how he would see it. And the way he has really, written this out and developed it, really started to feel excited. Like, even though we approached him with a bunch of ideas of concept and some images, the way he told the story back to me, I was like, okay, this has to happen. So I think Nitesh can tell you a little bit more about what that journey for him was.
Yeah, Nitesh, do you mind talking about kind of how you were first approached for it, and also what your first reaction was? Did you think this was capable of being made, or were you confident from the get-go that this could get done?
No, retelling an epic which has been the most revered epic of our country for thousands of years comes with a lot of moral responsibility, and it comes with its own set of challenges also. And I needed to be 100% sure, not just 100% sure, I needed to be 200% sure that this is a journey I wanted to take. And the kind of vision Namit and his team shared, the kind of talent pool which was going to be backing this ambitious dream, is what I would like to call, kind of reassured me to the max, and that's where I got really convinced. I took my own sweet time, but having evaluated all these pros and cons, and having seen what Namit was bringing on table, really was the deal clincher for me.
I mean, I feel like this movie is obviously it stretches across so many characters, but at its core, it lives and dies on Rama. How did you go about, or if you guys both want to take this, choosing the correct actor for this, and how did you know it would be Ranbir?
See, especially when you are portraying the character of Lord Ram, there is a very tight rope which you are going to be walking, and there is almost no margin for error. The requirements are so high, the expectations are so huge that you cannot afford to not come up with your best. In terms of who you are going to be casting for the role, in terms of how you want him to prepare for the role, in terms of what your expectations are from the artist. Just to give you an example, Ram was a man of few words. His love was unbound. His pain could not be seen, but it could be felt. His courage needed a lot of physicality to it. So the role was really, really demanding, and we just felt, that there was nobody better than Ranbir to portray all these things and manage the expectations of I don't know how many billion people.
Yeah, Ranbir, can you talk to that?
No pressure to that answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you talk to that responsibility? Did you feel that pressure? Was this ever something you ever envisioned for yourself?
Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Reese, I must address this moment, this feeling that I'm feeling right now. In 2000, I went to a film school here called School of Visual Arts. And I remember I was speaking to one of my Italian classmates, and he's like, what are you going to do in the future? Are you going to get an agent in America? Are you going to work in America? And I was so clear at that time. I said, no, I'd rather come to America with a film which is from my culture, from my country. And today I'm sitting, talking about Ramayana. I just feel so surreal because nothing is bigger and better than this. Coming to Lord Ram, coming to playing Lord Ram, I remember when Namit offered me this part around 4 years back. My instinct reaction was no, because I'm not fit enough, I'm not good enough, and I won't be able to do full justice. And I think that fear very quickly turned into gratitude, because opportunities like this was very much needed in my life. There was a time I was in a moment, in a period in my life that I needed to change my life, my lifestyle. I became a father for the first time, and I think this sweet coincidence of playing Lord Ram and becoming a father was very much needed for that turning point in my life.
At what point do you think that you really had to start? I guess 4 years ago you discussed it. What was that preparation like? How did you go about tackling such a large character?
I think, Reese, for every Indian, for me, the preparation started the day I saw Ramayana, Ramanand Sagar's Ramayana. It's so etched in our subconscious and it's so deeply rooted in us that we are so proud of the story. We're so proud of Lord Rama's journey. And when I had the opportunity to actually essay him, to portray him, of course, there's a lot of preparation that an actor does, not just physically, if it's emotionally or spiritually, actually understanding and being very truthful to, because like Nitesh sir and Namit said, that he is somebody who's loved by billions around the world since centuries, and he will continue being loved even long after we've gone. But the responsibility is something that I take great, I have a lot of respect and a lot of love for this part, for the story of Ramayana. So I think when you have that inbuilt, everything just falls into place.
How do you guys go about balancing, because obviously this is a story known by so many, but I'm sure for a lot of people this might be their first introduction to the story, to the first introduction to these characters. Can you first describe who you're playing, kind of what makes this person, and then kind of go about explaining how you guys intend to, I guess, have this cater to a global audience, to people who might not be familiar with the story?
Sure. So, no, I think Reese, that's incredibly pertinent because that's one of the reasons why we started our tours in the US to culminate back in India. Because, since I've lived between the US, UK, and India, I've been intimately aware of the visibility of our culture. Obviously, people from India know Ramayana. If you're an Indian, you know Ramayana, there's no question. There are other cultures in the East that know the Ramayana and celebrate it as well. But when you talk to the Western folk, I think in general, that visibility is clearly not as much. And, and there's obvious understanding of that. And that's where, the whole journey of this, communication that we're doing now started. The idea is, before we talk about the Ramayana, you must know who Ram is, or Lord Ram is. And this unit actually is the first introduction of Lord Ram, to give people across the world a sense of who he is, why there is such a strong belief in him, his perspective, his idealism, and his values, so that when we then talk further about Ramayana, you will all have a greater appreciation of what and why the story or this epic continues to be so relevant, in spite of it going through, like my grandmother told me the story, and I'm sure my grandmother's grandmother told her the story. Like it's something that's just been passed on generation after generation, and the enthusiasm only grows. And that's something that the Western world, I think, is completely unaware of, and that's where, I felt it was incredibly important that we begin with telling you who Ram or Lord Ram is, and then we, talk about, because it's a massive epic, there's lots of other characters, and the world is just as big as anything you've seen in your life. And that sort of is where we thought is the most appropriate way to launch the epic of Ramayana.
Do you guys want to add to that?
I think Namit has summed it up so beautifully.
Nitesh, how do you go about, I guess, from a directing standpoint, trying to, obviously this is a tale that's thousands of years old, so there's already going to be like the familiarity with it, but in a contemporary setting, it's insane to me that this is going to be made into a film, that this is a film. When this was first, I feel like announced a few years ago, I remember being like, there's no way how is this going to happen? And then seeing just the trailer, I'm like, now I get it.
So you were aware of the Ramayana story?
From college, yes.
Oh, you were? How come?
Yes. I would say not fully, but enough to have an introduction to it. So when I saw that this was announced, I was like, how? This doesn't, I couldn't wrap my head around it. But now I'm like, how kind of do you go about making, this contemporary? How do you go about, obviously you've made biopics, you've made comedies, you've made dramas, romances, but this is an entirely new genre. It's a story into itself. And how do you go about making this a modern tale?
I would not say that we have really made a conscious effort to make it into a modern tale or something like that, because the essence of Ramayana lies in the values which it holds, and I think those values are universal, those values are timeless. I don't think I need to modernize those values. What has happened is, over a period of time, I think the world seemed to have forgotten those values. We are here to remind the world of those values, and kind of maybe the film like this will make the world a little more better place, is what I feel. Retelling of this film and reimagining of this film to a scale like this needed somebody with a really, really large heart to back it up. And I think I found that person in Namit. You really need someone with a lot of guts to back a project like this at this scale. And I don't think I would be sitting here with my head held high and heart full of pride if it was not a backing from Namit.
I really like what you just said about that, about it being timeless, that it doesn't need to necessarily be modern because of the fact that it's timeless. But I do think that this is something that maybe 50 years ago wouldn't have been able to be made. But it takes kind of this perfect storm, this amalgamation of you three to make this and bring this to life.
Sure, I think the only thing I'll add to what Nitesh said, and he's incredibly accurate about that. And frankly, that was the reason why I wanted nobody but him to actually direct this, because the authenticity of the emotion and the way people feel about each of the characters in Ramayana is incredible. And we want the honesty and the sincerity of the filmmaker to present that in the most authentic manner. That being said, because Ramayana has been presented from television to street plays and is celebrated every year, the only thing that you don't get to see are the big action battle sequences that are actually written into the Ramayana. And because of the lack of technology and because of the lack of presentation, most people, including from India, would never have seen how each of these battles were fought or how things were actually accomplished. And to make it relevant for our children, because my children grew up in the West, and they grew up on all the big Hollywood fare, and I was like, hold on a second guys, we have stuff that the West has actually taken from or been inspired by. Let's show you the OG of where we come from. So there's a lot of pride, and the presentation had to be at that scale to say, this is not a compromise effort. We will retain the authenticity of our Indianness, but we will bring the best in technology and all the HODs that we've put together to make sure that it sort of feels timeless to the people of the world, including every Indian, where everybody should have a lot of pride that we're not making something to say, oh, that's a good effort from India. This is saying it's as good as anything you've seen in the world. And if Ramayana is not presented like that, I think it's a disservice to something that is so close to our heart.
And I really like what you're saying, that it's not a compromise, that it is something that it's all or nothing. On that, like going off of that, I kind of want to talk about the technology, the visual effects. Obviously, you're no stranger to VFX, to large scale projects, but kind of, are there any new innovations, any new techniques that we can expect, and how you're bringing this story to life?
I think without going into too much technical detail, I can say one thing, that we've obviously won 8 Oscars and 7 in the last 10 years for some of the most celebrated films. And it's fair to say that Ramayana today is the hardest project that we as DNEG have done or are currently doing. And that tells you a little bit about how, from technology development to the level of artistic oversight, the kind of planning that we've gone into in terms of how we're filming on set, how we're integrating different forms of visual effects production techniques, is very, very unique, because it does everything that any big Hollywood tentpole does, but it takes it further, because ultimately it's, I used to always say to the people in the West, I said, Ramayana is set in the world of Lord of the Rings, and it's an avatar makes gladiator. And that's said in one line, but if you think about that, it's Lord of the Rings scale in terms of world, and then you've got the avatar creatures and the world with the humanity of gladiator. I'm like, you pick 3 of the biggest Western storytelling and brilliance filmmakers that have done that, and we've sort of put it into one. And that obviously means innovation and technology and techniques across the board. So, it would be mild if I said that there's some change. It's a transformation for the company. It's a transformation for how we do things, how we actually approach, a story and epic of this size.
That got me very excited. What was the decision to make this into 2 films? At what point in the process was that decided that this was a story big enough that it's like, we can't just do this in 1 film, this has to be 2?
I think, initially, because Ramayana is such an epic and it is so vast, that initially we had thought about making 3 parts. And we, in fact, wrote the screenplay for 3 parts. And then later on we realized that maybe it's going to be too much of a wait for people to, finish all 3 parts. So we somehow then managed to concise it within 2 parts. And I think we are sitting on a very sweet spot at this point of time with everything which we wanted to say within the time frame which we wanted to say. And I think it's a decision which we are pretty happy with.
Now, Ranbir, many people are calling this one of the biggest films ever made, so I think I feel safe in saying, would you say this is the biggest film you've ever made? Gotcha, okay. Just wanted to get that out of the way. I kind of want to talk about some of the challenges with that. Like, as an actor, kind of how do you approach something of this scale while keeping the humanity, while keeping it grounded? How do you go about that? And also, what was it like working with such a great director, such a great producer to keep you in that space?
I think Reese, where creation is concerned, because I come from the world of creativity, I don't think you take that kind of pressure. Oh, that's his pressure, not my pressure. But I think as an actor, what's my dharma is to do my job in the best way possible, honestly, truthfully. There's a beautiful saying in our scriptures, "Dharmo rakshati rakshata," which translates to "Dharma protects those who uphold it." So as an artist, it's my job to just honestly approach my work with the responsibility of hundreds and billions of Indians and other cultures who are going to witness this epic. What's the second part of the question?
Oh, I kind of wanted to talk about working with them, what that was like, what that experience was
Well,
like.
that was amazing. Actually, Namit and me are childhood friends. Our fathers were best of friends, and so we've kind of grown up with each other. Nitesh, we've worked on. I did a couple of guest appearances on his earlier films, and we've done a couple of ad films together. But to get a team like this, what Namit has done is got the best of the world. If it's talent from Hollywood, if it's actors, technicians, crews, he's put everybody together, and everybody had just one faith, one belief to make the best possible representation of the Ramayana. Not that this is going to be the only one. Every year, 5 years, every generation, every decade, there will be a new representation. There is no right or wrong way. But I think the only right way is to be true to your intention, to be true to the story, and really have faith and belief in this. Because all of us believe in Ramayana. We believe that it is our truth, it is our history, it is our culture, and this is the right time to kind of represent it and show it to the world.
Beautiful answer. These are fantastic things. I want to talk about now kind of the runway to release. What does the next several months look like? What is this going to be? Are you guys close to done? Is the score done? Is there still VFX to be done? Is there ADR to record?
All of the above. And what's even more fascinating for you to know is that we've been filming part 2. So day before yesterday, we were on set filming part 2, and then we took the flight. Both Nitesh and Ranbir came straight from the set, and we took the flight, came to New York, went to LA, and now we're back here, going back to Mumbai, and then we continue filming part 2, while we continue to do all the other departments of visual effects, music, all of it. So it's it's like we're pedal to the metal in that sense. It's fair to say that while we put this much hard work and passion into it, not bringing it to the people of the world would be a massive disservice. So I think I'm really appreciative of both the fine gentlemen on my side to take themselves out of a very hard-working schedule and come and spend this time like literally doing 24-hour trips all the way to the West Coast and back is hard. And I think we're doing it to make sure that we spread the word and let the world appreciate not just the fact that we are making this epic, but also that we genuinely care, and we care about it being communicated and experienced by the best people in the best way possible.
I feel like from talking to you guys today, I understand how much this story matters to each and every one of you. And also just, like you said, I really like that the truth is going to be there, that there's intention in what you are putting out there. I'm curious, like once it's finally going to be with audiences, I'll have each of you answer this. What is the main thing that you are hoping that each and every viewer walks away from it with?
I think the Ramayana gives you so many life lessons. If you follow Lord Ram's journey, he is somebody who stands for compassion, for forgiveness, for righteousness, for courage, for karma. He treated everybody with love and equality. So there's so much to learn, and like Nitesh sir had mentioned earlier, in the times that we are in the world right now, it won't hurt us to really understand empathy and love, and equality. I think it's very, very important right now in the world.
I would divide it into 2 parts. One is basically about the people who are aware and familiar with Ramayana. I hope and I expect them to feel satisfied, happy, that we have stuck to our roots, but at the same time feel extremely thrilled because this kind of execution is something which they would have never expected. You know? So that is the kind of response I'm expecting from people who are familiar with Ramayana, and for people who are not familiar with Ramayana, I want them to feel wowed. Okay, stuff like this can come out of India, and I sincerely hope that they will walk back home with a set of morals and values which I think will help them in changing the way they think.
I'll just say that in my life's journey of everything that I've done, I feel like something that a lot of you here I obviously see are Indian familiar faces. I've lived in the West as well, and I've felt over the years we've all succeeded, worked through the hardships of life, and really made a mark in wherever we've gone. So for the Indians that are in India and the rest of the world, I feel Ramayana should bring a lot of pride and a lot of positive belief that we have stories and our own culture that we can actually count on, and we don't have to keep, because we're a very adaptable country and a culture, that while we're more than happy to keep adapting, we also have something that grounds us and anchors us tremendously. And so that's a big one part of what I would hope for all of you to feel tremendous pride in your own culture and in where we all come from. And then for the West, as Nitesh said, the fact is, as part of being again another Indian, my goal is not to be better than everybody else, but I want to make sure that the world sees us as good, that we are not less. And that is really in my own journey, and I think in every Indian's journey, wherever they are in the world, we've always had to work harder to prove that we are as good. Yep. And because that's the culture is not about showing superiority. It is about we are all equitable. We all want to be at the same line. And I think this film hopefully should put us all feeling that pride, the West and the East feeling more integrated and feeling like we're all part of the world, and we're all part of exchanging the best that each of us can offer each other. I think that to me would be a great outcome.
Thank you guys again for such beautiful answers, such great insight into this film. I just want to give you guys one last opportunity. If there's anything you'd like to share about the films, anything you'd like to say as a parting word to the audience here today.
Just to start with, thank you so much. This means the world to us that you guys showed up, gave us encouragement. We feel the love, we feel the positivity. We're going to take this back with us and work harder even on part 2. So thank you so much for being here.
We love you, Ranbir!
They have to finish the movie, so we'll let them go. But let's give one more great round of applause for our lovely Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
Jai Shri Ram!